Shubhata will begin, I guess.
Yes, I guess
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's begin.
All
Shubham,
right.
over to you.
Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are, around the globe. My name is Surojit Bose, and I have my co-founder Shubhroto also on this call, along with some of my other colleagues. It gives us great uh, pride and also a humbling moment for us to have two very eminent personalities from the IT industry join us today for this talk on how to capitalize AI for business. I think generative AI has been the buzzword for some time, and these two gentlemen will decode it for us, demystify to some extent what it really entails and how to harness its potential. Some of you who aren't very conversant with iFix Tech Global, I'll spend just a couple of minutes before we deep dive into our discussion today on what we are, who we are, etc. Just in terms of maintaining some decorum as well as from management of this call. If there are any queries at any given point in time, please type it out in the chat. My colleague Shubroto will collate all of them so there's no duplicity of questions, and we will discuss it at the end of our session. So quickly to run you through, who we really are. We started out in 2018, and it was a conscious decision to remain and play in the product space. And that's how we started our journey in the IT application space. And we started off as a IT service provider, IT as a service, predominantly in the ITSM space. And that's how our journey began, with a very soft and secure landing with one of the world's leading FMCG player, giving us an opportunity to test bed our product. From 2018 to 2019, we had a solid foundation wherein two marquee conglomerates, one being ITC, the other being L&T, uh, taking our product, using it, and giving us solid feedback in terms of what needed improvement, what was working well, what wasn't working well. But what really was a takeaway for us in the mid or later half of 2019 and 2020, when probably the whole world was grappling with COVID, is that our product got tested for both complexity as well as load handling across two large giants. And that gave us the confidence to start scaling up in 2021. And there was another interesting, factor that or feather that added to our cap in 2020, which was essentially Microsoft honoring us amongst the top 1% of startups in Southeast Asia. What it really meant in tangible terms is that we got generous grants and sponsorships from them. And today our product is listed with Microsoft, with a potential prospect soon to become a customer buying it off their website. We started scaling in 2021, 2022. That's when we realized that from just being IT as a service provider, we need to get to Gen AI as a service provider. And we started talking to our key customers, our sponsors. And in 2023, we relaunched our product and called it Gyani Workbot. What it essentially does, it's an enterprise level Gen AI as a service platform. And to put it simplistically or demystify it for people who are probably not purely from the tech domain, it can automate your traditional help desk, it can automate any kind of ticketing tool, and it can automate any kind of human driven process which has a certain degree of repeatability about it. And at the end of it, I think the big question everybody will be asking, not only after today, but going forward in the next couple of years, is what do I harness out of this? What we have seen is an early gain of productivity of close to about 60 to 70% and a TCO reduction of anywhere in the range of 35 to 40%, which seems to be very encouraging, given the scenario we are in. So with and this entire Gen I can cut across both IT as well as the business aspects of any organization. So having said that, I'll quickly move on to the two gentlemen that we have with us. First, I'd like to introduce Arjun Malhotra, who's the speaker this evening. Arjun, beyond whatever I'm going to talk about him, he's been very critical in our journey. He's been a mentor. He's guided both Shubroto and us, kind of handholded us at times in terms of what should be done, what should not be done, where our focus really ought to be. He's been a very successful entrepreneur and founder to many successful companies like HCL Technologies, TechSpan, served on the boards of Headstrong, ISB Hyderabad, IIT Kharagpur, the Doon School, TIE, etc. And as we said, as I said, he's been a mentor to us. Similarly, he's been a mentor to many, startups and has been a strategist to many, many successful startups. A warm welcome to you, Arjun, and thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you.
The next gentleman is Vinay Khargonkar. I think is a very known face in the Indian IT industry, an experienced CXO leader with a large MNC. He's been credited with introducing leading technologies in his sphere amongst his co-CXOs in the industries. He's known for introducing generation technologies in AI, ML, RPA, IoT, enterprise software, as well as managing large IT infrastructure. Vinay, we are very, very glad and happy to have you on board for this evening's discussion. A warm welcome to you on behalf of iFix Tech
Thank
Global.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So with that, I open the forum to both Arjun and Vinay, and we'll start the discussion. Over to both of
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Surajit, for getting me over here to speak to Mr. Arjun Malhotra, such a personality by itself. And I'm privileged to talk to him today. And this session is we'll try to understand what is going on. The AI, we are listening for many years, but the touch feel of AI, we did only a few months back when we saw that something is coming like generative AI, which I was monitoring when it was at 3.0, a model which was pre-trained with massive amount of data and which started giving we started seeing some glimpses of what it can do and what it cannot do. And it has created a huge amount of buzzword in the whole industry. In fact, if you're not talking of AI today, that means you're old-fashioned technology guy. So anything and everything, you talk of anything you can relate to artificial intelligence and try, wrapping it, the old product around it, and you try to pitch in the market. If you're not doing it, I think the product is of no use. That's what it is. But on the other side, we as business leaders are still grappling with what to do with this technology. Is it really beneficial to me? Will it really add to somewhere in the bottom line or reducing cost, which is a big concern. So the situation, I don't know what is there in Silicon Valley where Mr. Malhotra you stay. Can you give us some direction to industry or to people like us who manage IT and try to give directions to our board or senior management? And what should be our approach? What do we do about it? Should we put a hold, do a wait and watch, or we also start experimenting? So please help us out in a little bit demystifying things. It will help.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you. It's a tough question because, like everyone else, I'm also learning about it. I first got acquainted with AI many, many years ago. I think Professor Raj Reddy at Carnegie Mellon was doing some work, and I'm going back now, was it to the 90s or maybe even to the 80s? When at that time, it was something completely new. It was expected to become really large, but it fizzled out, and only fuzzy logic kind of AI applications that went into washing machines and places like that. But you're right. The minute generative AI, Chat GPT, got announced, and the fact that you could query it in English, which in a natural language, which made it sort of universal, made it a consumer product from being something that engineers had to use or could use earlier, I think is going to change how people use it. Now, a lot of investments are going in. There's a lot of buzz around it, but we haven't seen any real applications. I've seen some beta applications that are coming up in the US. For example, uh, let's say when you're repairing an aircraft engine, just a simple example. Now, the manual is there are multiple manuals. If you look at the text, there'll be probably 30, 40 manuals, thick manuals, and there'll be lots of video that'll be available. Now, you have a particular problem. To identify where to look in the manual, you've got to go to the appendix, try and find out where it is, and then get to that page and read it. Today, you have an AI product that where if you define your problem, it'll go to the part of the text and tell you where it is, as well as to the part of the video that tells you exactly where someone is fixing that particular problem. So you're starting to see some of these aids that are coming up that are helping people. Obviously, this is a very initial thing. You can use it for interviews, for example, and I've seen that happen. Uh, Consulting company, 5 partners want to interview someone senior. Each of them interviews separately. And so if I'm partner number 3, I want to know what the other 2 did. I'll have to sit and look through 45 minutes to 1 hour of video to find out what happened. I don't have that time. I'm only interested in what did the prospect respond to a particular query. I just ask that, and in that part of the video where that query is being answered comes live. So it saves me a lot of time, makes it convenient. And so those are the things that are happening. I know my wife is writing her email letters and invitation letters of Chat GPT. So she's finding it really useful instead of drafting it out herself. I've used it for a couple of times where I've had to give a talk. I've gone to ChatGPT and it's given me the points. And then I use my brain, so to say, and add some more points to it and then build my talk if I have to give a talk around that. But getting to business applications, I think we are still very early. Everyone is investing in it. If they've got something internally, we don't know about it right now. What is visible is a lot of large language models are coming out on which you can work. Llama is there, Gemini is there. There are lots of them that are coming out. Companies are developing their own LLMs that'll work. Everyone's expecting it to give them some cost benefit in some area. In fact, most of them are looking at laying off people. And I keep telling them that while you may lay off some low cost people who you think AI can quote unquote replace, although I don't think that's the correct word, they can't be replaced. But you'll end up recruiting a lot more people or fewer people at much higher salary who know how to run your AI platform or whatever you want, and it's probably going to cost you more. So, be careful when you try and look at that kind of cost saving. Try and look at how you can make your business more effective. Try how you can make it more efficient by getting access to tons of unstructured data that's available. Earlier, all we did was work on numbers and text and use our gut in a way to come to a decision. Today, I can get a lot more analysis done. I still have to use my gut to come to that decision. But the amount of analysis that I can get done is quite amazing. And not only on text and data, unstructured and structured, but also on video. And so I can now collate from all that and come to some kind of decision. So I would say still we are in the learning phase. Silicon Valley is no different. They are spending a lot of time and effort trying to give you the tools by which you might be able to do it more efficiently, do it better. Uh, there's a lot of talk on ethics in AI, and I'll be happy to talk about that a little, about where I think it's going and what's happening there. But I haven't seen any real major benefits to industry that have come out right now or that I'm aware of.
So essentially, what you're saying is it is still in a POC stage, a proof of concepts happening. This NLU, NLP, which is the base of this technology, natural language processing, natural language understanding. So these examples, or few examples of what you said, they are available sort of in experimentation stage, and maybe not fully deployed in production. And there are apprehensions about, because uh, I always thought that these things are like probabilistic technology. It is still not deterministic. How much to believe? So still, if you have some more examples related to say retail, if you have some example related banking and finance, or one more question is generative AI also having a huge amount of data. So what is your opinion about using small language models, verticalized sort of thing? And if you'll also touch base something on security aspect of, because see companies like us or any company is having a lot of IP of customers, their own IP. Well, I'm sure you must have heard that in India, Samsung Engineering, they accidentally, the one of the programmer released a code on the generative AI platform, and so immediately it got into the news. So in this way, the one flip side is that we start using it, whether my code will be or my IP will be secured or not secured, whether results, should I really believe on those results, is also like, somewhat, I would say people are in dilemma. So for such
Yeah.
thing, what is your advice? What they do?
Yeah. So, let me start. When you look at Chat GPT, it's taken all the public domain text and stuff, and that's basically how they've trained the model on all that data. But if I look at all the data in the world, I estimate, and I think not me, but a number of people estimate that the public domain data is only about 20%. 80% of the data is held within companies. And so if I'm looking at it from a company perspective, I have to make sure that I build a private cloud, that it is my cloud, not in the public domain. Otherwise, all my IP and all will become part of what a public domain chat GPT or some AI, generative AI tool will have, which no company wants. So we'll have to, companies will have to do their own. They can leverage what's in the public domain, but they have to be very careful that they don't let their data or their IP go out to the public domain. Because if it does, then you'll have the problem that you mentioned about Samsung. So that's one thing we've got to be really careful about. On cybersecurity, I've been thinking while I was answering the question. I think the way it'll probably work is if I can train the generative AI platform to understand the usage patterns of all the authentic users that use my platform. And the minute you see something that is outside that pattern, it'll give an alert to the administrator or the CISO, the security head, and he or she can then look at it and see if it's an outsider trying to come in, or it really was someone who woke up in the middle of the night and decided he wanted to log in to do something. So those checks are going to come in. Initially, there will be, in my view, there will be a number of false positives, false negatives that'll come up. But over time, I think as the system gets trained and it gets more and more knowledge, it'll sort of adapt. It'll obviously have to learn if new people come in, and that's going to be it's a challenge. I don't know how to answer that right now, but that's probably a way that people will look at Gen AI giving them security. The other thing I want to mention is you've got to remember that in any Gen AI platform, if the programmer has a bias, that bias will show in the results you take from that platform.
Yeah,
Right. So you
true.
got to be very careful because then no one blames the platform, but they will blame you because those are your results. So there is research going on. I know there's some work going on in UC Santa Cruz. They've just published a paper on how you can identify bias in the platform so that you decide. And, that gets you the point of ethics. And this is something governments have been grappling with also for some time. I'm working with a, excuse me, I'm working with a group of mathematicians actually in Europe. And we've sort of come to the conclusion that ethics is a very personal thing. I mean, it's at a corporate level. So there's a level, companies define their code of ethics, but also individuals have a code. And so what we are thinking the way to do it, and I don't know if that's the answer, is that we define a framework in which you put in the company and your code of ethics. And then if you generate something from a platform, a AI platform, once you generate it, you run it through that framework and it'll tell you where the mismatches are. At that point, you can decide whether you want to change your definition and change it in the framework or change what you've generated so that it meets your definition of ethics. I think that's probably the way it'll end up coming out as something that everyone will have. You already have it. I mean, most people, it's called conscience. Most people have their own code of ethics that they
Yeah.
do. Oh, yeah, what we are trying to do is uh, define the conscience, put it on a framework, and then let you run everything through that to tell you if there's a conflict with what is your conscience. Uh, it's just, I think that's the way it'll probably pan out. And again, I'm conjecturing right now, don't have the answer.
Yeah. See, you said very rightly, the programmer bias and poisoning of the data will lead to very different results, which you may not believe. But at the same time, you touched on one thing in the last uh, question, that private LLM or a small LLM, but still it is the training of this LLMs is actually phenomenally expensive, right? Meaning that's what we read through it, and I really do not know what tools, what is happening in the how can, say, for example, companies, I decide to say, for example, make my small LLM or very verticalized LLM for, say, risk management, for example, or
Mhm.
helping me out in procurement decisions. So the the question is it really very difficult, and we will not be able to do that ourselves, and we'll have to look for somebody else who will do it for me, or the time requirement or amount of investment requirement, a general idea about anything can you help our audience to know, because this is question is hovering in my mind for some time, but I'm not able to get the answer.
Okay, I would think that if you want to build your own private LLM, and I'm assuming it's not small, small, because then the utility will be somewhat limited. It's a mid-sized to large LLM if you really want to leverage it to get some good decisions. You obviously have to get a set of engineers who know that area to do it for you. Now, whether you use one of the IT services companies or you use your own people, that's up to you. But it is an investment either way, whichever way you do it. And you'll probably have to retain these people because after they build the LLM and they get it, I have to now teach my users how to use it. You know, uh, even today when I work on, say, Chat GPT or Gemini or whatever, it takes me two or three uh, rounds of asking the question to find out the right way to ask the question to get the answer I want or the data that I'm looking for. And so, it's called prompt engineering. How do you key in the prompt or how do you ask the prompt? And that is going to be something that people will have to learn over time. I'm assuming universities will make it a part of their course once they know how to train people to ask questions from certain uh, platforms. But yeah, it's going to be very important. And again, the other problem when you're building your own LLM is how do you define the rules? Who defines the rules? Ultimately, if I run a company that's in a particular space, I am the domain. I know the domain better than anyone else. and I'm the best person to lay down the rules, but I don't know how to lay down the rules that'll get translated into the LLM in terms of getting the platform to do what we want it to do. So it's really it's like we talk of data science. Now what I'm trying to do is get a guy who understands math and statistics and understands the industry, who then can look at data and give you analysis. Right. Now, finding people, I can train people in math and stat, but training people in domain gets very difficult. Whereas I can take domain people and then try and run them through a math course and get them to come up to speed, which is also not too easy. So we run the same dilemma in this area. So while everyone is looking for quick results, I think you're going to have to wait for a while. Now, it's not going to be 10, 20 years, but at least a couple of years before you start seeing real benefits that'll come out of this technology.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to ask, I mean, discuss a very different question with you, with your permission. See, look at the impact of Gen AI. Still very not very sure whether it is going to impact jobs, whether I'm going to be there. Because some of the companies, what I heard, that they're trying to generate now code through generative AI. So it is going to really affect programmers, because large amount of Indian engineers are writing code, right? So I'll essentially say that the top bracket of the people won't get affected because they are super rich. The bottom people are anyway, nobody's bothered much about them. But the middle class is very important for the society. And large amount of people in country like India, or maybe look at the Eastern economies, they are deployed over there. So whether middle class will get benefit, or middle class will further get marginalized over a period of time further down. So what is that you see in the next about 5 6 years? Because one of the small companies, startup companies, last time they are into some travel startup, and the product what they've developed, they said our 60% of our code is coming out of Gen AI. So I was thinking how to, so the question may be a little incomplete, but how do you see that large population workforce will really get impacted? At least code part is really showing that.
So it's a good question, and here I'm going to stick my neck out and give you what I think. Uh, so I come from a time when computers were just coming out, computer hardware, pre-PC days, and at that time everyone felt that computers are going to take away jobs. And in fact, we had a lot of trouble when in HCL, Hindustan Computers Limited, when we first came out with our machines, because the unions definitely didn't want computers, and banks resisted for many years. And in fact, when they finally decided they would take in computers, the PC-80, the 286 machines had come out, and we weren't allowed to call them PCs or anything. They were called ALPMs, Advanced Ledger Posting Machines.
Okay.
Right. So we've been through that. Now look at it. X years later, computers were supposed to take away middle management jobs, but look at how many jobs they've created. The only thing you want or you need for that job is you need to know how to use a computer. Right. That
Okay.
I think the same thing is going to happen on AI. Forget the initial blips. Those things happen. But over a period of time, it'll create much more employment. But the people who'll be employed will be people who know how to work with AI systems, who know how AI platforms, know how to query them, know how to be able to leverage them effectively. It's going to, and they'll probably get paid more than the average computer programmer today, right? Or the average computer user today, I should say. So I think it's good. I think it's actually going to help the middle class. It might, as I said, you might get a blip for a few years. There might be job losses, but over a period of time, there are going to be many more jobs created. And one reason I feel comfortable about saying that is that the amount of data that can now be analyzed is very different to what it was earlier. And because so much data is being analyzed, you need so many more decisions will be taken, so many more things will need to be done. And that will need more and more people. And remember, AI is a tool. It's not it's not a human being. It's not how do I put it? There's no gut in AI. Now they may develop it over time, and you talked about deterministic and probabilistic. I still feel the present computers as we know them are all deterministic, whether you use AI or not. Quantum computers are going to be the probabilistic uh, technology thinking that'll come in. And so when you talk about AI and quantum in one breath, then you are stepping into an area where you might be able to say that there's some human gut involvement, some higher level of neural thinking, neural intelligence that can come out of a computer, if I use that term. But that's a long way off right now. I look at it as I'm not going to be around when that happens. So I'm not too worried about it. Right?
Yeah. Okay, we are going to have very exciting times. You're right. When computers came, nobody thought that what will be the real use. Ledger posting was just one thing where you note down the transaction. Earlier, you were writing down in the red books. Now you write down computer. But nobody thought that the whole computerization will evolve to a level where who's thought about 50 years back when the first computer came that I'll have a device in my hand by which I'll be able to talk, I'll be able to do computation. A device, the PC-80, what you're talking of, is so inferior compared to what device I'm holding in my hand today. About maybe 1,000 times more powerful than that, and doing so many things. We can't even imagine that without that device, will I able to live? The first thing when you get up in the morning, first you say, where is my mobile? And that mobile is getting carried everywhere. Even in toilets, mobile are getting carried. So it has become like a part of our body. Maybe sometime AI will become part of our body where without that we may not be able to work effectively, I would say. And
Yeah.
obviously more opportunities will come to provided we also upgrade ourselves. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. And you got to look at there's a technology called nanotechnology that's also around the corner, right?
Mm,
And the thing about nano is it doesn't follow the same laws of physics that we are taught today. And so life is just going to be completely different, I think, as you get through all this. But it's in the future. Actually, nano is starting to come in. The Dreamliner, for example, or Tesla cars. The body is made out of carbon fiber, which is a
yeah.
nano kind of chain. They've got some very nice sunblock, which actually has nanocrystals in it, which reflect the sunlight back so it doesn't come onto your skin. So, you've got some very interesting products. I mean, things are happening all over. Look at what's happening in medicine with genetics. I mean, a lot of cures that they're looking at today. Why, our vaccine for COVID came out of a genetic mRNA vaccine. Similarly, they're looking at diabetes. They're looking at lots of things where they can actually go in and hopefully change the genetic kind of area where that causes something like diabetes or whatever. So you're going to see lots and lots of changes. And in fact, computers and AI and quantum machines and stuff are going to start playing a very important role. In fact, I doubt if you could get any of this progress without them. In fact, today I would say, like roads are infrastructure, computers are infrastructure. They are part of the basic on which everything is going to revolve in the future. And I think AI is going to play a big role in that. But in what way, how quickly, that's anyone's guess today.
Okay. So what is your advice to business leaders? What they should do? If I ask you to give a quick few tips or words of wisdom to business leaders, what they should do.
Well, I think they should learn a little bit about AI. Let me
Okay.
start with that. It's very much like when we started, we used to try and educate CXOs about computers and what they would do. You don't need to learn programming, but you need to know what a computer can do and what it can't do. Right? You need to know how to do kind of business intelligence to get, if then else type decisions on computers. I think exactly the same thing is going to happen here. I think first thing they've got to learn is how to prompt engineering, how to ask a platform, an AI platform, to get the answer they want. Right. You can't depend on someone else. You know what you're looking for. That's the key. I think that's the first thing. And the next is to actually understand which parts of their business can be impacted short term, long term with AI and not take blind decisions. I remember when the bubble in 99, 2000, everyone thought brick and mortar was going to close down and everything will go online. It's been about 24 years since then.
Yeah.
Brick and mortar is still around. And so you've got to be somewhat realistic in the time estimates that you have for things to happen and things to change. Change doesn't come that quickly unless, unless you're in a war situation like Ukraine or whatever's happening in the Middle East. But other than that, change takes time. People take time to adjust. They all need to learn. Everyone feels threatened when there's change. And so you just have to sort of accept it. And I think that's what senior people or CXO people have to look at is that this change is going to come. How it's going to come in your organization, you have to manage that, control it, see what needs to be done, and then take a decision. You know, it's like assuming, how do I put it? Like you talk to the McKinseys of the world and get advice, you'll have to talk to some of the people who understand AI and understand your organization and get them to give you advice on how and what your company should be doing or your industry should be doing to try and help this. I would hope that industry associations, uh, which have not tended to be in most cases, very active in this area, should be the leading points that should come out and tell industry what they can and can't do because they do have industry knowledge. Certain things are common in every industry, and they should be able to come in and they might be a good point from which this knowledge can be disseminated.
So to summarize that, awareness at all levels has to be created. That what is this generative AI? What are the possibilities? What we can do? What we cannot do? Right. Number one.
Right.
And second thing, that to create awareness, you have to also put some investment. So create some small projects. Try to bring it, showcase them. They may not be very accurate in the sense that give immediate bottom line results, but try doing some experiment. Do some industry association, stick your neck out and see what others are trying to do, and start some momentum. Basically, start momentum inside the organization to come to a level. You should not be caught off guard. Maybe you learn after 3 years or 2 years down the line that you are completely out of it and competition has taken up. Is this what can I? Is this summary is okay, or you want to add something over here?
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely fine. I think, the other thing you might want to add to that is that there's only a certain amount of things you can do in-house with your in-house teams because they're not going to expand overnight. Try and work with some IT services companies, some product companies that have products in that area and try and start doing small POCs with them too to try and see which areas you can get what kind of benefit. And the minute you see the benefit, then make sure it comes through, implement it ASAP as quickly as you can, so that
Brilliant.
at least in that area, you've locked in your benefits, hopefully before other people in the industry have been able to do so.
Okay. Thank you so much for the insight, Vinny. May I ask Subrata to take it if there are any questions? So what I would see that it is there is a hype, but there's some realities also there. There are concerns, but also we have to pass through this because it's in the new technology. There are concerns. Keep the concerns in the mind, but work on the technology to take forward direction. There are challenges at all levels, but look for partners who can help you out in doing some fast POCs, right? So as any technology poses a risk, here also there are risks, but I think there are mitigations are also available. We should try doing it.
Yeah.
I think there's a great amount of learning, sir, today speaking to you. If
Yeah.
anything else,
No. Yeah, I just one more thing I wanted to mention, Vinay. You know, a lot of us have worked with rules engines, which way we
yeah,
make a limited number of rules and then they give us some results on that basis. And that seems to be very efficient and effective when they work. I would think that just think of this as a rule engine with thousands of rules that you can put in there that go into implement on much larger database of data that you're working on. That's really what it is in a simplistic way. If you can imagine that is what that you want, that you can now look at so much more data, structured and unstructured, and you can ask them so many more questions that will answer you at one time. That's really what it is. So instead of getting scared, a lot of people get scared when they, it's. I always give that example of when I was growing up, opening the bonnet of a car, the hood of a car, and looking at the engine and fiddling with it. Well, everyone thought they could do it. But if you opened a PC and showed them the motherboard, everyone would get, oh, I can't touch this kind of thing. Whereas that car had so many more parts, was so much more complex than that motherboard. But
yeah.
it's just perception on how people look at things. So from a perception point of view, don't get scared of AI. Just think of it as lots of rules with lots of data, and that's really what you're going to have to be dealing with at a simplistic level. And after that, once you learn a little more, then you'll be much more comfortable in that environment.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Subrata, anything?
Right, yeah, makes sense. So Arjun and Vinay, thank you so much. It was a very good and very lively discussion. We wanted to have this discussion more business oriented so that the benefit of GenAI comes towards the business, because ultimately, if it doesn't work that way, then it's meaningless. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for that. That's true. So there are a couple of questions came in. So there are 3 to 4 questions which I will throw up on right now, and please decide one of you to answer. Before that, actually, I just wanted to thank our participants also here for joining the call. I know you all are there from various continents, so thank you so much. Just to make a little bit of small announcement, so there are some upcoming webinars coming in on the way. The very next one would be on how to use GenAI for cybersecurity. So that's a very specific domain-specific things we'll bring in the month of June. And thereafter, one is on industry specific, that would be use of GenAI for the banking and financial services and insurance as a sector. So there would be things like that will be coming in. So please stay tuned for that, and join us as and when we make the announcement. Now, coming forward, there are very good questions came in which are very realistic, I must say. So this one is on, like, as a business leader, if I want to decide to use GenAI, how do I decide? Is there any template or any questionnaire type of approach should we take, or is there anything else that you suggest? This was a question from Rahul actually. So uh,
So I'll just take a quick stab at it, and then probably Vinay is better to answer this. But bottom line is, you know your problems. You know where your problems are. You know the ones you need to get fixed, where you think you're not getting the right answers or not getting adequate analysis to get to the right decision. That's where you've got to look at Gen AI to help you. Gen AI can probably help you in a lot of places. But for you to decide where to use it, I would think your initial POC should be in areas where you think they will or you will need to get the maximum impact, and see if that's where you can work it. That's what I would say.
Uh, I would rather say it is a solution chasing for a problem. It's not other way around. So, as Arjun rightly said, that what are your main pain areas? So, for example, your pain area could be in risk management. Your pain area could be training. Your pain area. What is your real pain area? And do you have sufficient amount of data in that area? then you try getting that thing at a place, and then apply your OpenAI algorithms or Gemini or something to get start with basic answers. So one of the company which I know, what they did is they are from a business where they are into constructing plants. So there are some basic rules for constructing plants. So they took all that knowledge which they accumulated in one place and uh, decided asked which frames 100 questions. So there are questions and there is a data, and then they asked those questions, and they kept on correcting the base data. So now it has become a training data for graduate engineer trainees. So when the trainees are coming up, so they have been given a set of questions and they have to go and ask Jenna and learn and make presentations. So what you learned out of it. So that's how upskilling people very fast. So look at some examples like this. And so there's no template per se. It as of now, as I know, but where you would like to apply and whether you have data available and can you put it in place to make use of it. Try that. A very simple, small example to make you excited because it can be done very easily, very fast, and then you can take your journey onwards. I hope I have answered the question.
Yeah, I think that's still a great answer. So two of the takeaways I think are appearing here. One is, as Arjun said, I think it's the gut that you have to apply, and I think Vinay, as you said, apply your own judgment based on the context. I think that makes sense. Right. Another one very interesting, purely from application of GenAI perspective. So this question is like, as a CXO or a CIO, it's a buzzword today. So I would like to learn something and try to see where can I use it. So what kind of budget should I keep for a pilot? Is there any thumb rule or anything? It's a very specific question, I understand, but yeah, please feel free
So
to
Vinay, I think
answer.
you're the best person to respond to this.
I would say there is no budget required. It's only your inquisitiveness to play around with the technology. Gemini is completely free to start with. Even OpenAI for normal public usage is free. And if you really want to use it at enterprise level, the initial I think subscription start with $20 or something. So with $20, you can safely use it. I think your monthly bill will not go beyond $20. And so initially, your own interest, inquisitiveness will drive you. Don't think of money as of now. Just start playing with the technology. There should be no fear. If you fear, I think you will never grow. So that's the mantra.
Right, I think makes sense. Right. Um, now there are two more questions here. These are on specific to AI or GenAI. So one is on LLMs, large learning models. Other one is on prompt engineering. So I think the message came in here that these two are the biggest contribution to the industry. Probably some graduation course or a diploma course may going to start very soon on each of these areas. So question came in here saying, as of today, the prompt engineering patterns possibly are very, very common across all the LLMs. So is there any possibility to make it very specific to LLMs, or so to say, the LLMs are bent industry specific or domain specific? Can there be the same thing for prompt? It may be a bit of technical question, but throw some light from usage and industry perspective, please.
Arjun is the best person to answer this.
So I'm not sure. So, if you have something that's specific to an industry, then the words you put in your prompt are going to be somewhat specific, industry specific. Other than that, I can't see any change in the so-called prompt engineering as a concept. The words might be different if you have industry specific uh, models. But prompt engineering is learning how to ask a question so you get the answer you want, right? Most of them are trained the same way or similarly. So it's not too different when you ask it. If it was different, then, it's like learning a different language every time you talk to a different platform. But I don't think it's too different right now, and hopefully won't be too different. I don't know if there are standards that'll come up or are being set up at all, but It's likely to be very similar when you go to different platforms. Industry specific platforms will just have words that are industry specific that you'll have to use. I can't see any other difference. I would not recommend any other difference. Otherwise, it'll be too specific to a particular industry, and that you won't be able to use it anywhere else, even in ancillary industries, so to say.
So,
Right.
the large language models are trained on the generic data which is publicly available. So, like as Arjun said, that for a standard questions, you'll have standard answer. But the tacit knowledge of any industry, be it a bicycle industry or automobile or aerospace industry or shipping industry, it lies inside the organization. Nobody would share the tacit knowledge in the public domain. So if you want to use it very specifically for your vertical domain, I think the small language model or verticalized LLMs will be very useful, for which you will have to make an effort. As Arjun has said during his thing, you don't put a set of engineers or services company, call them, make your own LLM, private LLM. You can use Llama or whatever, Llama 1, Llama 2, and do that. And that will become a good cutting edge for your industry. It will take some time, but ultimately, if you have interest and you now want to put effort on that, you will reach somewhere.
I think yeah, that's the way to go. But initially, as you said, it might need some efforts from the organization side. And without that, I think the benefit will not come. But that lead to the last question for the session today. That is, in terms, the question is about protecting the IPs. Like there are many fears and risk around that. Like if I use a public model, possibly I'm sharing a lot of company data. On the other hand, if I try to use a custom model or a small language model, maybe that lot of time and efforts required or investment required. So is there any trade-off on protecting my own IP versus
Yeah.
how
So,
can I do it quickly?
yeah. So, Subrata, one of the things is I don't have to give my IP to the public model. I have to get the public model in and share my IP with it in a private cloud. The public model is available. It's a public domain, so you can get it. And anything that is added in the public domain will get added to that model automatically. But if I take, let's say, ChatGPT is the public domain model, I take that two or four or whatever, five or whatever the number that is relevant to you, and you get it in and use it with your data. Don't share it back again to ChatGPT. Right?
Very
That is
right.
what,
Hmm.
yeah,
Very
that
right.
is
So
what, yeah.
That's the way
okay,
it
so
should be.
right. So the key lies there, making your environment as much as protected as you
It
can.
is
Yeah,
like you do
that's
today. You're
right,
doing it today to your data. So why would you share it in the public domain?
right,
What
right.
the IP that is being challenged right now are there lots of books and all that are copyrighted, which are in the public domain, right? Or they are available in a digital form, which ChatGPT has been able to access. And so now the writers are asking for their royalty for that particular thing, and they don't know how to
That's
do it because who's using it, how, I mean, that is
nobody knows.
completely nebulous and gray area right now. But that's what's happening with all this public literature. It's not technically public domain, but it's digitally available in libraries, and also ChatGPT has access to it.
Right. Yeah, that's
Very
true.
right.
Makes
Very
sense.
right.
Makes sense. So I think that's all from the questions perspective. I'll say over to you, Surajit, to conclude and formally close the session.
Yes. Thank you, Subroto. Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone who joined in and participated in this. And thanks for some of those interesting questions. Also for putting, our eminent speakers on the spot, asking some very tricky ones as well. Uh, we do intend as a company to add to being one of the disruptors in the knowledge domain in this particular space. as Arjun and Vinay both alluded, it's early days. So we too are grappling with it. But what we do want to do is instead of saying that, iFix Tech Global understands this or has, thorough understanding or mastery of this, we want to be collaborative in our uh, way forward in terms of growing with most of you in terms of our prospects and customers, learning together whatever we gather from industry experts in-house as well as from our clients, so that we can deliver probably in the initial early days quick successes, as Arjun pointed out, saying, if something's working well, be the early adopter so that you've got it before everyone else. So thank you again, all of you, for joining in. Vinay, thanks a lot. I know how busy your week evenings can be. So, really appreciate you joining in and sharing your thoughts. You're probably hands-on as far as all of us are concerned in terms of dealing with this day in and day out, build versus buy kind of a challenge that persists in this particular space at this point in time. So, thanks for being lucid and transparent in all your conversations this evening. Thank you so very much. Uh, Arjun, as always, we look up to you as a thought leader, and listening to you is always, very insightful. Some of us also get enchanted with the way you present your thoughts and the way you come up with some exemplary analogies. I think it's lovely to hear you every time we do. So thank you so very much for making the time. I know in a completely different time zone. So thank you so very much for joining in as well. With that,
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
thank you. With that, I'd
Thank
Thank
you,
you
like
so
to
much.
Arjun.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rojit.
conclude. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Avrata. See you sometime again.
Pleasure.
Bye
Yeah,
bye.
Yes.
sure.
Thank
Our
you,
pleasure.
everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you all
With
so
that, I'll
much. Yeah.
conclude
Bye.
this
Bye. Bye,
meeting.
Vinay. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah. Thanks. Bye bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Good night. Have a lovely week.